Hello, friends. Welcome to another episode of Mike's Money Picks. Today on the podcast, it's Masters Week. That's right, it's the 1 week a year where I just walk around the house uttering random Masters words and my wife gets really mad at me. Butler Cabin, Amen Corner, Magnolia Lane, Azalea, Firethorn, Golden Bell. It's here. This is my favorite golf tournament on the calendar, which is why I'm talking like this. Here on this episode, we're going to break down the 2025 Masters Tournament all in 30 minutes or less. That's right, just like Domino's, 30 minutes or less is our guarantee. We're going to tell you everything you need to know about Augusta National, about this Masters field, some of the stats and the data behind it, and tell you who you should be targeting in DFS betting and one and done here this week. Now, this is a special week. This is Masters Week. So we are going to have some additional content. You're going to want to make sure that you're subscribed to the channel because tomorrow night we're going to be talking about some of our best bets because there's a lot of player props. There's a lot of bets that you can be taking here for Masters Week, and we're going to be breaking down a lot of them on tomorrow's episode. So if you're subscribed, you'll be able to be here for that. And this is a big week for us with it being a major. So as always, please make sure you're subscribed to the channel and tell everybody else. Tell a friend. Make sure you like the video, rate, review for listening on audio. Help me grow the community by doing your part and liking and sharing to someone else. I love this week, and I hope you guys do as well. Let's go ahead and dive into Augusta National. All right, so Augusta National is, in my opinion, the most well-known, most iconic, most visually aesthetically pleasing golf course on planet Earth, and it is the home of the Masters year in and year out. And it also lends itself to being kind of dominated by a certain type of golfer. And so what you tend to see happen is because this golf course is so unique, because it's so unlike anything else we see on the PGA Tour, you tend to see a similar archetype find its way to the top every single year, and you also tend to see very, very sticky course history. Now, Augusta National is also quite stingy with their rights and quite litigious as well, which is why the flyover, if you're watching on YouTube, looks a little different this week. We're watching a YouTube video from basically somebody who used the EA Sports PGA Tour video game to play Augusta, which in my opinion, that's one of the main selling points of the EA Sports PGA Tour video game is the fact that it has Augusta National and no other game has. Nobody other than EA Sports has been able to obtain the rights. Now, if you've been watching the Masters your entire life like I have, you know this golf course. You could probably go through all 18 holes in your mind. You know when you're watching what's coming up next. You know where the birdie holes are at, and you know how to play this golf course, right? Now, on the scorecard, Augusta National is a, over 7,500 yards, par 72. It is a very long golf course, but it plays even longer than that. What makes Augusta National so much different than any other course on the PGA Tour is the elevation changes that you see on a hole-to-hole basis. There is a lot of situations at Augusta where your tee shot goes downhill and your approach shot comes back up the hill, which creates, a lot longer course because approach shots uphill tend to play a lot longer. Also, Augusta National, because it's kind of in a mountainous part of Georgia, it is not a very flat piece of property. So you end up with a lot of very sloping lies in the fairway, and being able to navigate those sloping lies is very important. And then the greens themselves are super undulating. And so, being able to putt on those is a quite difficult challenge as well. Now, what makes Augusta National unique is that there's basically no presence of rough anywhere on the golf course. There is a second cut of grass, but it's not that big of a hazard. Basically off the tee, as long as you can stay out of the trees, you're going to be good. And so Augusta National does have fairly wide driving corridors for that reason. And then what is a big piece of difficult is actually the lack of rough makes the around the green play much more difficult than a normal PGA Tour golf course, because most golf courses have this thick rough where you can just kind of get underneath the ball and just kind of pop it up and chip it. That is not the case here at Augusta. Everywhere around the greens is mowed down. And so you're going to be chipping off of what is essentially fairway grass, and it causes balls to roll away from the green if you do miss the green. And it's also a much different surface to chip off of. And so you do tend to see players chip well here year in and year out, or chip poorly here year in and year out, because it is a different type of chipping in around the green play than what you're used to week in and week out on the PGA Tour. Now, in terms of winning score, Augusta National is actually above average in difficulty on the PGA Tour. It annually ranks in the top 10 in terms of difficulty. The one year it played really easy was the COVID Masters, the November Masters in 2020, when Dustin Johnson just kind of tore it up. But for the most part, you're going to see a winning score that is kind of in the vicinity of -10. What you're going to see also more often than not here is a lot of guys who play well and end up at the top of the leaderboard here do a lot of their damage, get a lot of their strokes under par at the par fives. The par fives at Augusta are actually a fairly easy set of par fives. Most of them are gettable in 2 for most of the field. And so being able to score on these par fives is going to be crucially important because the par fours are one of the toughest set of par fours in the entire PGA Tour, and the par threes are no joke either. The fourth hole is a beast. It's the longest par three on the course, and then the shortest par three on the course, the 12th, is incredibly difficult because of the very tiny green complex that it has, with everything funneling back towards the water or to one of the two bunkers. So another thing that I wanted to mention here is that every year, because the Masters is a tournament that everybody is like invested in, everybody's trying to predict, right? Everybody goes back and looks at all the data from all the tournaments. And what always comes out every single year is like a trends article or like a trends like thread on Twitter, right? Where it's, oh, 11 of the past 13 winners did this and this and this and this, right? And basically, I really do enjoy reading those, but I wouldn't necessarily like follow those like religiously, because basically what ends up happening is, based off whoever wins the next iteration of the Masters, the goalposts just get moved a little bit, right? And if the guy doesn't fit the trend, well, then it just becomes 11 of the last 14 winners instead of 11 of the last 13 winners. But I've read all those trends articles. I've looked at them. Basically, what you're looking for somebody to win the Masters or for somebody to play well at the Masters is you want coming in good form, because this is not a place where you're going to find form. And I do mean that in terms of a tee to green form. You got to be a good off the tee player, approach player, and around the green player here at Augusta. You want to have good major history. You want to have good finishes in majors before, and it's much preferred to have good history at Augusta National. One thing that's very dichotomous with Augusta National is debutantes never win here, and then nobody ever repeats here. So you never see back-to-back champions, and you also never see first-time winners. It's just kind of like one of the anomalies of this tournament, right, is that both of those two things happen in the same spot, because you would think that a course that is so predictable based off course history year in and year out would have repeat winners, but it really doesn't. And so, if you want to use that to just X Scotty Scheffler off your list, go for it. But this is a tournament that is very hard to repeat at for whatever reason. Now, if you were to ask me what the defining skill set would be of somebody who wants to come in and win Augusta National, I think you have to be a good total driver of the golf ball. Accuracy does matter here. You do not want to end up in the trees, but distance is always a plus factor here, because this is a super long golf course and plays longer than it does on the scorecard. And I think the next skill that I would want is mid to long iron play. This is a course that is super dependent on approach play. Approach shots can win you or lose you this golf tournament. And if you're a good mid to long iron player, generally, you're going to be able to play well here. And then you're going to have to scramble here. Like, there's no way about it. You're not going to hit every green. The green regulation percentage is not high. So you're going to have to scramble. You're going to have to make pars where others will bogey. And lastly, I do want to say, this is just like, if you can't tell, this is like my favorite golf course, my favorite golf event, right? Like the Amen Corner holes 11, 12, 13 are just kind of where the tournament tends to turn. If you're doing player props and you want to bet on Amen Corner, you're really going to be dependent on somebody birdieing or eagling the 13th, because it is very difficult to birdie hole 11 and hole 12. So if you're looking at player props, don't get sucked into those unders on Amen Corner, because hole 13 is really the only one that is all that gettable. Now, we do this every single week. Let's go ahead and take a look at our key stats for the week. Like I said, I am prioritizing strokes gained tee to green recent form, strokes gained approach primarily on proximities that are 150 yards plus, strokes gained around the green. And if you have the ability to put it on short grass, then I would look at that. And then strokes gained putting at this course or on fast greens, right? Like, so one thing that's interesting, this is the first course on the PGA Tour calendar in 2025. The golfers are going to see bent grass on the greens. And so you can't really look at recent form from bent grass putting. So I would prefer to look at fast greens or putting just specifically to Augusta National. And then, like I said, you're going to have to be able to scramble this week. So bogey avoidance, as well as par 5 scoring, as well as course history, going to be incredibly important this week. And also, I have a list of comp courses here, but look, I'm going to be honest, you can't comp anywhere to Augusta National like apples to apples. It's just not. Like, nowhere is like this. So I'm not really going to be big on a whole lot of comp courses this week. I would rather much look at course history here and history in the majors. But if you are a comp courses person, Riviera, Kapalua, Quail Hollow, Muirfield Village, TBC Deer Run, TBC Scottsdale, Memorial Park all make the list for one way or another. Riviera, Kapalua, you tend to see a bunch of similar winners at. Quail Hollow and Muirfield Village are super long tee to green tests where the fairways are hittable. And there's not a whole lot of big time penalty for missing the fairway. TPC Deer Run and TPC Scottsdale, you see a lot of the slopey lies and different elevation changes at those two courses. And then Memorial Park is another long golf course that featured short grass, short game areas. So those would be my comp courses. But like I said, I'm not looking at comp courses this week. All right, let's go ahead and take a quick breather, and then we're going to take a look at the data from the rabbit hole this week. All right. If you have been with us for a while, you know that when I refer to going down the rabbit hole, I'm not talking about an actual rabbit hole. I'm talking about the rabbit hole, which is a tool from BetSperts Golf that allows you to use all different types of filters and conditions in order to really isolate the micro skills that you want to see in a golfer for a particular golf tournament. And I've been using them as my data modeler all season long. I've been super happy with them. I highly recommend it if you're looking for a golf data site. I believe they are the best in the business. All right. So here's what we have for our rabbit hole stats this week. Like I said, it's going to kind of mirror my key stats, but we're going to go through it and talk about who the top 5 golfers in every single key stat are going to be. So first thing, strokes gained tee to green recent form. Top 5 in the field: Colin Morikawa, Bryson DeChambeau, Scotty Scheffler, Michael Kim, and Sepp Straka. Oh, by the way, I had to do a little bit of tweaks for some of the live guys. So like really when you do majors, modeling is kind of weird because to get the live guys included, you kind of have to tweak some things. But if you don't, you kind of end up excluding them, right? So next thing up is going to be strokes gained off the tee. Who are the best players in the field off the tee? Bryson DeChambeau, Taylor Pendrith, Scotty Scheffler, Corey Connors, and Rory McIlroy. Next, I want to look at strokes gained approach. Again, this is still recent form. Top 5, Colin Morikawa, Nick Taylor, Sepp Straka, JJ Spawn, and Shane Lowry. Recent form, strokes gained around the green: Cam Smith, Hideki Matsuyama, John Rahm, Michael Kim, and Bryson DeChambeau as your top 5 there. Next, here's where we get kind of a little bit differently, right? Outside the realm of recent form, I want to look at total driving. Who are the best total drivers in the field? Tyrrell Hatton, Sung J M, Chris Kirk, Corey Connors, and Scotty Scheffler is your top 5. Next, I want to look at 2 key proximity buckets this week. First off, 150 to 200 yards, which is going to be a distance that a lot of approach shots are going to be coming from this week. Top 5, Joaquin Niemann, Brooks Koepka, Scotty Scheffler, Sergio Garcia, and Sepp Straka. When you go out to 200 plus, you have Patrick Reed, Brooks Koepka, Dustin Johnson, Joaquin Niemann, and Victor Hovland, top 5 in that category. Next, I want to look at kind of is like the third approach stat. I want to look at strokes gained approach on long golf courses because that kind of gives you a really good test of who is going to be good with their long irons because long golf courses tend to lend themselves to a lot of long iron shots. Top 5 in that regard: Xander Schauffele, JJ Spawn, Keegan Bradley, Scotty Scheffler, and Colin Morikawa. Next, I wanted to look at scrambling from short grass only because that's going to be what you're going to be tasked with around the green here at Augusta National this week. Patrick Reed, Joaquin Niemann, John Rahm, Nick Taylor, and Nikolai Højgaard is your top 5. Then I wanted to filter out only difficult golf courses. Who generates the most birdies on difficult golf courses? Joe Highsmith, Ludwig Oberg, Davis Riley, JJ Spawn, and Rory McIlroy. And then who is best at bogey avoidance on difficult golf courses? Number 1's no surprise. It's Scotty Scheffler, Michael Kim, JJ Spawn, Matt McCarty, Colin Morikawa, and Rory McIlroy. Of note, Scheffler, Spawn, Morikawa, McIlroy, Russell Henley, Joe Highsmith, and Davis Riley, top 15 in both of those categories. Now, I also want to look at strokes gained total on long and difficult golf courses. Top 5 in the field in that regard: Rory McIlroy, Scotty Scheffler, Ludwig Oberg, Xander Schauffele, and Bryson DeChambeau. Next, I wanted to kind of look at majors in the last 4 years. Excuse me. I didn't want any of them COVID majors in there, right? I wanted crowds. I wanted real major environments. So best in that regard: Scheffler, Schauffele, McIlroy, Morikawa, Rahm as your top 5. The next part of that list is really interesting, though. Lowry, Zalatoris, Hovland, Smith, Fleetwood. All of those guys kind of, with the exception of Cam Smith, all those guys without a major in the last 4 years. Next up, I wanted to look at strokes gained total at Augusta National. So who are your best players at Augusta National in their careers? You've got Jordan Spieth, Phil Mickelson, Scotty Scheffler, John Rahm, and Justin Rose as the top 5. Then I wanted to look at strokes gained putting on fast greens only. Who the best players are: Denny McCarthy, Minwoo Lee, Harris English, Christian Bezaid, and Thomas Dietrich. And then the last stat that I added because I remembered it at the very end, I should have remembered it sooner: par 5 scoring. You've got 2 amateurs, Jose Luis Ballesteros and Noah Kent, 1 and 2. But after that, it's Pendrith, McIlroy, Straka, Thomas, Matsuyama rounding out that category. Now, throw all that into a model. And what that generated, which should be no surprise to anybody on planet Earth who's been watching golf in the last year, Scotty Scheffler is my number 1 golfer this week per the model. That is not a surprise at all. However, I would put a little bit of caution on this, right? Scotty Scheffler this season has not won an event yet. Unlike when he came into the Masters each of the last 2 years where he had won prior to the Masters, right? He's also not coming in with as good approach form as he has. He ranks 7th in this field in the strokes gained approach category for the last 30 rounds. That's not what we typically see out of Scotty. And also add that to what I said earlier about the defending champ never winning here. And I think there's enough serious concerns about Scotty that even though he is like the perfect golfer for Augusta National, and Augusta National is the perfect golf course for him, I think there's enough concern to think that he might not actually win this tournament this week, even though he is my number one golfer. Now, my number two golfer is a guy that I'm actually going to be full fading in DFS formats this week. It is Collin Morikawa. Now, here's the reason why I'm going to be full fading him, because everybody is talking about Collin Morikawa right now, and for good reason. He has been on the doorstep of winning numerous times this PGA Tour season. He is coming in with great approach form. He's the number one golfer in the field. He's a good total driver of the golf ball because he's not super long off the tee, but he is accurate, and he's just going to rate out well in kind of whatever statistical model you want to put, as long as approach play is factored in, because he's been so good at it. But here's the thing. Collin had a top 5 finish last year at Augusta. It is really difficult to repeat top 5 finishes at Augusta National. So I want to show you guys this, right? So if you look, and this is the cheat sheet on Betsperts Golf for this week. If you look at the 2023 top 5, right, at Augusta, you've got Rahm, Koepka, Mickelson, Henley, Reed, Spieth. None of them finished in the top 10 last year. Patrick Reed was T12. In 2022, you look at the top of the leaderboard. Scheffler 1, McIlroy 2, Lowry 3, Smith 3, Morikawa 5. Only Morikawa and Scheffler finished in the top 10, and it was T10. You go back to the 2021 top 5. You've got Matsuyama winning it, Zalatoris second, followed by Spieth, Schauffele, and Rahm as your top 5. Well, guess what? Zalatoris is the only one that finished in the top 10, and he was T6. It is really hard to finish top 5 back-to-back years at this golf course for whatever reason. And last year's top 5 was Scheffler, Oberg, Morikawa, Fleetwood, and Homa. I feel pretty confident Max Homa is not going to top 5 again, and at least part of that streak is going to continue. But like I said, it's really hard to do that back-to-back years. You've got everybody talking about Collin Morikawa. You've got him in great form coming in, and I think he's going to be super popular in DFS and betting formats. And so I'm going to stay away. And I would traditionally have thought that Augusta National was not a good fit for Collin Morikawa because of his lack of distance off the tee. So, I kind of think this is not a good course fit. I think that everything in the numbers is pointing directly towards him. Everything in my numbers is pointing directly away from him. So I am going to be fading Collin Morikawa this week, and I hope he does not win. Now, number 3 in my model is Rory McIlroy. This is interesting. I think Rory McIlroy is going to win the 2025 Masters. If I had to pick one person to win the 2025 Masters, I'm going to be picking Rory McIlroy. And there's a very clear reason why. Rory McIlroy has never come into the Masters with as good a form as he has right now. He has won twice this year already at Pebble Beach and at the Players, and his other finishes, T17 at the Genesis, T15 at the Arnold Palmer, and T5 in Houston. He has not had a bad event on the PGA Tour yet this season. I think he is going to continue his good play here at the Masters. I think Augusta National is a course that sets up really, really well for Rory, with the fact that he is so overpowering off the tee. His approach play is in really, really good form. He gained about 8 strokes per the event at the Players, which is one of the best of his career. I think that everything is shaping up for Rory this week. And I think that the only reason why anybody would want to fade Rory is because of his very mixed, very checkered history at Augusta Nationals. So if you look at his history at Augusta, he was runner-up in 2022, the first time Scotty won, followed that with a missed cut in a T22 last year. Missed the cut in 2020, but T5 in the November Masters in 2020, right? So he just has this up and down history at Augusta, but this is his opportunity to complete the Grand Slam. He is never coming in playing better golf than he is right now. And if you even listen to him in interviews, he's mentioned that he's fixing his course management. He's trying to be less aggressive, trying to be more conservative on the golf course, and he is trying to play, in his words, more like Scotty, and that has led itself to 2 wins so far this year. I think Rory McIlroy is going to win the 2025 Masters, and I am going to stand on business. Actually, that was an awful idea. I don't know why I did that. Well, not only did I get myself out of the camera, but I got further away from the mic. I thought it would be a great visual if I stood, but I'm standing on business that I think that Rory McIlroy is going to win the 2025 Masters. Now, number 4 is Xander Schauffele. And look, I get why he shows up great on the model. He's a great approach player. He's a great Masters player. He's a great Majors player. He's not coming in good form. He was great on approach at the Valspar, but he has not found it yet in 2025 as he came in on that injury. I am going to be out on Xander Schauffele this week, but I understand why he comes up near the top of my model. Number 5 in my model is going to be Russell Henley. Look, I'm a big fan of Henley this week, y'all. Simply put, Henley is coming in playing some really good golf. If you are a follower of the website Data Golf has kind of been a Russell Henley truther for a long time because somebody of his record and his approach play tends to end up winning more golf tournaments. And what do we see finally this year? He won at the Arnold Palmer Invitational, which is a really long golf course, a course that I wouldn't think would benefit Russell Henley's skill set at all because he is not a long hitter of the golf ball. But he played really well there, ended up winning, and he's been just lights out this entire year. Only had one bad start at the Genesis Invitational, which was Torrey Pines, which I think would be like one of the worst golf courses for Russell Henley. So I think that he's in a really good spot coming in this. He is a native of Georgia. He played his college golf with the Georgia Bulldogs, and he has a pretty good Masters history. He was T4 here in 2023, the year that John Rahm won. So Russell Henley, to me, shapes up to be a very solid outright bet this week. Also a very solid DFS play. I'm going to be in on Russell Henley, and I'm not shocked at all that he came in 5th in my model. 6th in my model was Hideki Matsuyama. This is another guy, much like Xander, that I understand why he came in near the top, but I'm probably going to be fading in most formats this week. Number 7, Corey Connors. Kind of see it a little bit with Connors. He's kind of like a Morikawa type player where he's a good total driver of the golf ball. He is also an elite level approach player. So I understand why he's coming in near the top like he is. He's also coming in really, really good form. Tommy Fleetwood at number 8. This is a guy that I'm probably going to be off this week. Same with Ludwig Oberg at number 9. Bryson DeChambeau at number 10. I think that's about the right spot for Bryson. I have no idea what to make of Bryson this week, y'all. Ever since his whole par 67 comments back in 2020, Augusta National has not been super kind to him until it was last year. But if you look at what he did last year, it was all in round 1 when the course played really, really soft. If the course is going to play firm and fast, I don't think that bodes itself well for Bryson's play style. I don't think that how he generally approaches golf is necessarily the approach you want to take at Augusta. You know, he tries to be the scientist, and Augusta is this golf course that kind of, you know, favors touch and feel and these kind of, you know, just feel type players that aren't Bryson DeChambeau, right? So he's probably one of the hardest players in the field to predict, in my opinion. Now, that's the top 10 of my model right now. If you want to know who makes the final top 10 of my model, I do post it every single week on my Patreon, and as well as all of my core plays on DraftKings and FanDuel for DFS, as well as a full write-up as to why they're my core plays and why my model ended up how it is. So if you would like that information, I post that every Wednesday on the Patreon, patreon.com/Mike'sMoneyPicks. And if you want more information from me, you could also go to my Twitter at Mike's Money Picks. It's where I tweet out all updates for the show. And then you can also join the Fantasy Corner Discord. Link is in the description. Basically, the Fantasy Corner Discord is a community of a bunch of really good, really smart people who play DFS for a lot of different sports. And we're always in there talking strategies, talking lineups, talking plays, and golf is one of those sports right now. So if you want just a community of people to talk with, the Fantasy Corner Discord is the place for you. All right, let's take a quick breather, and then let's take a look at the board, and let's talk about some more plays. All right, so we kind of mentioned this earlier, but this is very much a tournament where everything is shaping up to where Scotty and Rory are like the 2 best golfers in this field. You know, all of the kind of long-term trend data points towards Scotty. A lot of the short-term trend data points towards Rory. So I think what's going to happen this week is when you look at the betting boards, those 2 guys are going to be way ahead of everybody else. I generally do not bet outright golfers at that short of odds. So even though, like I said, I think Rory McIlroy is going to win the Masters, I'm probably going to be looking to get access to him in different formats of game as opposed to outright betting. I think that if you're looking to do like a top 20 parlay or a top 10 parlay, those are 2 great guys to do it with, but I don't like betting outright golfers at that short of odds. Also, when you look at DFS this week, I think there's very much a case to be made. I'm still going to play some Scotty lineups, y'all. I'm not going to be full fading Scotty, but I think there's very much a case to be made to play Rory over Scotty because with the way that the salary works, with there being no 5K range on DraftKings this week, getting those $1,300 savings in DraftKings to go down from Scotty to Rory allows you to do a whole lot with your lineup. So you don't have to view it as this prism of just Scotty or Rory because Rory does give you a bonus to do everything else, right? So I would much prefer to look at it in terms of what you can do in terms of like 2v2 or 3v3 combinations. But if you go down from Chef to McIlroy, I really think you'll be able to build a lot more lineups that you feel a lot better about if you are starting with Rory as your best player. Now, we already mentioned this week. Or kind of earlier, right? What I'm going to be looking to do this week is I'm going to be starting a lot of lineups with Rory McIlroy on DraftKings and FanDuel, and I'm going to be big time fading Ludwig Oberg and Collin Morikawa. Oberg's recent form coming in has been super inconsistent. He just missed the cut at TPC San Antonio. He also was runner-up here last year. We already mentioned the improbability of going top 5 in back-to-back years at the Masters, but also last year when he was runner-up, he gained 8 strokes putting. There's not all that likelihood that he's able to do that again. In fact, one of my funnest facts from the Masters last year is that if you had swapped strokes gained putting with Ludwig Oberg and Shane Lowry would have won the 2024 Masters because Shane Lowry putted that poorly. Ludwig Oberg putted that well. Their tee to green game wasn't all that separate. Now, like I said, I'm going to be fading Ludwig. I'm going to be fading Colin this week. We already laid out that case. I expect him to be super popular in DFS formats as well, which to me makes him an easier fade. Like, really, one thing that I've struggled with historically playing golf DFS is narrowing down a player pool at the top. But this week, I actually feel like it's really easy for me to pick guys that I'm going to play versus fade. For whatever reason, I just see very easy pathways where some of these guys at the top are going to fail. And I don't generally see that. It's also been my working theory, like since the start of the calendar year, that Scheffler and McIlroy, and I would even include Xander in this, are in a tier of their own. And that next tier of golfer, Obig, Morikawa, Cantlay, Thomas, they're just disappointments time in and time again, right? And so I'm going to be largely fading that tier as much as I can, but there are some guys in that tier that I do like. Now, I do like Jon Rahm this week, and I think he's going to be kind of unpopular because in DFS formats, because of the fact that, you've got Scheffler and McIlroy at the top, you've got Oberg and Morikawa right there after him. I think that he's not going to be played by a whole lot of people, and I think that his form at Augusta National is just undeniable, right? T45 last year in his title defense was his worst finish at the Masters in his career. He's made the cut every time he's played it, even as an amateur, and he actually has 3 top 5 finishes, including that win, and 2 more top 10 finishes. So I really think that Jon Rahm, when you look at his Augusta record, I think it's much more likely that he plays well this week. And also, for whatever reason, maybe it's the change in schedule, maybe it's the change in tournaments that you're playing, like whatever. Guys' first year on LIV tends to be poor for majors. Their second year on LIV tends to be better for majors, right? Like you look at Brooks Koepka, he played poorly in the majors in 2022, won the PGA in 2023, runner-up at the Masters in 2023. Bryson DeChambeau didn't play a whole lot of LIV in 2022, but better in the majors in 2023, won the U.S. Open in 2024, right? The more reps guys get on LIV and the more they get used to that preparation schedule, the better they get at the majors, and I think that's going to really play into Jon Rahm this week. I think he's a really solid play in DFS. I think he's a sneaky outright bet to win as well. There's also an alternate market that I like him in, but I'm going to talk about that on tomorrow's show. Now, I also do like Justin Thomas at $9,600. Just the approach play he's got coming in has been really, really good. And I really, really I think that when you think about Justin Thomas's career, this is really dumb. This is probably a horrible way of looking at it. But can't you just picture in your mind Justin Thomas putting on a green jacket? Like some of these guys, they just don't pass the green jacket test, right? Like you just can't envision them actually putting one on. Justin Thomas is a guy that I can envision putting one on. And he's got the driver game. He's got the approach play. He's got the around the green game to do it. His history at Augusta National, he's got back-to-back missed cuts, but prior to that, he had 2 top 5s in the previous 3 appearances. I think this is a pretty good spot for JT. I am going to be playing him. And from a DFS perspective, if I'm not playing Scheffler or McIlroy or Rahm, I love the idea of a balanced build this week because there's other guys in this 9 and 8K range that I like a lot. We already mentioned I'm largely fading Hideki. Look, Brooks Koepka, it's a major. When it's a major, you find a way to put Brooks Koepka in your player pool in DFS. Bottom line. Just bottom line. After that, though, I'm going to be fading big time Neiman, Hovland, and Fleetwood. Jordan Spieth, I think, is a really interesting play at $9,000. I think DraftKings really priced him up way too high. If he would have been like 8,200, he would have been a super popular play. But now we're getting a potentially low-owned Jordan Spieth at Augusta. I like it a lot. One of my other favorite plays this week, we already mentioned Russell Henley to be one of my favorite sneaky plays this week. Shane Lowry is going to be one of my favorite sneaky plays this week. And he might end up being popular in DFS. He might not. But he's coming in with just this incredible ball striking form. Like he has gained strokes on approach in his last 4 events big time. Like I'm talking like gaining at least 3 strokes on approach in all 4 of those events. He's been good and around the green in all 4 of those events. He's a good total driver of the golf ball as somebody who can not only drive it pretty long, but drive it pretty accurately as well. And Shane is a guy that his major track record is really, really good. He was in the top 10 in that strokes gained majors earlier. So I really do like Shane Lowry this week. He's going to be one of my favorite plays in DFS formats. In the 8K range, we already mentioned my affinity for Russell Henley. I'm also going to talk about Robert McIntyre. So Robert McIntyre is a guy that is a great total driver of the golf ball, coming in with good approach form, and he's played the Masters twice, not in recent years, but T23 and T12 in those 2 appearances. What I really like about McIntyre, though, is that long-term, he was one of these driver putter guys, right? Really good with the driver, really good with the putter, and, he wasn't really all that great on approach around the green. But you look at what he's doing recently, and it's been the approach play that's been really good. The around the green play has been up and down, but it's been for the most part pretty solid. It's been the putter that has let him down along with his driver. And so, if you're thinking about his long-term profile, if he gets those two skills that he had for so long back, he's going to be back to winning golf tournaments, which he won 2 big ones last year. So I really do like Robert McIntyre here this week. He's going to be one of my favorite plays on DraftKings. Now, looking further down the board, the 7K range, I think it's undeniable the form that Sepp Straka is coming in on. Just great approach play form. He won the American Express earlier this year. He's got decent track record at Augusta. He is going to be one of my favorite plays in the 7K range this week. Like, you just cannot find too many guys that are coming in with the approach form that he has. He literally this season only lost strokes on approach one time at the Genesis. He gained over 4 strokes on approach in every other event this year. That all types of golf courses, all types of ranges. Like, I just really think that Sepp Straka, because of that iron play, like, you got to look into playing him for that reason. Now, the bottom of the 7K range is super interesting. I think a lot of the mid 7Ks are guys that are going to be super unpopular. So we mentioned time and time again on this show, like in DFS, sometimes a good play or sometimes a bad play becomes a good play when nobody plays him and the guy goes off. And nobody is going to play this week. Tom Kim, no one's going to play Dustin Johnson. No one's going to play Matt Fitzpatrick. No one's going to play Sam Burns. No one's going to play Sungjae Im. If you want to take your shot on him, fine. Those are guys I'm probably not playing. I do think that the live guys in this range are going to be super popular, though. Patrick Reed and Sergio Garcia are coming in with really good form from live. I'm not going to be getting to Sergio. He's pretty much been really poor at this event ever since winning it back in 2017. He's missed the cut in 5 of his next 6 appearances. Yeah, I'm kind of out on that. Patrick Reed, on the other hand, has been pretty steady good here. Since his win, he's had 2 finishes outside the top 30, but he still made the cut and 4 top 20s. That's pretty solid. And he's coming in with really good form on live. Patrick Reed, solid play this week. I think he's going to be really popular, though. So just know if you're playing him in DFS, he's going to be a guy that's going to have a lot of ownership. Now, Adam Scott and Justin Rose are what I would call guys. Like, they're guys that if you're watching this tournament on Saturday or Sunday and they're near the top of the leaderboard, it's like, oh, that guy always plays well in majors. He's always near the top of the leaderboard, right? Adam Scott's recent form coming in is actually like quite poor. Justin Rose is, on the other hand, though, like at this point in his career, I think I'm really just going to be playing Justin Rose in DFS in big time events. Because you look at what he's done. T3 at Pebble Beach, that's a signature event. T8 at Arnold Palmer, that's a signature event. His other 3, T47, miscut. This is a guy that in his career right now, he cares about majors, and I really think that this is an event he's going to show up for. His history at Augusta National is great. I think that he's going to be one of my favorite plays here in this lower 7K range. Now, after that, the 6K range, look, I wouldn't go diving too deep in this 6K range in DraftKings this week if you're looking to play these guys or even bet on these guys outright. There's about 20 guys in this tournament that you can just put a big reg X through before it even starts, because you've got the old guys, you've got the amateurs, you've got the guys that just randomly won an event last year and aren't playing good at all right now and stand no chance. So I would really be like just not looking to dive too deep in this 6K range, not looking to bet too big of long shots, because there's probably a reason that they're that big of a long shot. Thomas Dietrich, though, I think is a great look at this event. Thomas Dietrich is an elite driver of the golf ball. He is a pretty good approach player when he has it, right? And he's had it in his last 2 events. He really had it when he won at the Waste Management Phoenix Open, which is one of the comp courses that we had because of all the slopey lies that you get. So while he is a debutant this week, he is an elite driver of the golf ball who can be an elite approach player, and he is always a good putter. I really like Thomas Dietrich this week. I also really like Aaron Rai this week. So one of the defining skills we talked about was middle and long iron play. You know who has really good middle and long iron play? It's Aaron Rai. He is pretty much one of the best approach players week in and week out on the PGA Tour. Do I love that he missed the cut at the Houston Open? No, but he got caught in the bad weather wave and he got caught out on the course at the wrong time. I'm not going to really fault him too much for that, but he's been really good this year other than that, especially with his approach play, especially with that middle to long iron play on long golf courses. I'm going to be here for Aaron Rai because even though he's not played in a whole lot of majors, not played in this event ever, that middle to long iron play skill that he has is going to come in handy here this week. Phil Mickelson is also super interesting this week, y'all. So lefty is back, right? Like he is playing the best he ever has on live. I see that the rabbit hole doesn't have a data page for him. He's playing the best he ever has on live, right? And he came in randomly 2 years ago and put up a T2 here. He's still got it every now and then, and he's coming in better form than he ever has since he moved to live. I think he's a super intriguing play on DraftKings at $6,700. I wouldn't get carried away and bet him to win the tournament, but I think he's a really solid DraftKings play down there at $6,700. And then the other guy that I'll mention, Matthew Pavone. Guy that is sneaky good at long golf courses, guy that was sneaky good at majors last year. coming in, and his approach play was really solid at the cognizant, really solid at the players. Like when he has it, he really has it. And I'm not saying that this profile card looks really good, but you're looking at a guy who played well in majors. You're looking at a guy who, can randomly splash. It wouldn't shock me if Matthew Pavone made the cut and was around lurking on Sunday. All right. That's going to do it here for this episode, though, y'all. So that is going to be it. We went a little over our 30 minutes, but hey, that's okay. It's the Masters week, right? This is my favorite term of the year. I absolutely love talking about it. So we're going to have more content on it. So make sure you're subscribed. That we can come back tomorrow night. We're going to talk about some of our favorite prop bets and other bets, as well as advice for playing pools for the Masters. So we're going to talk about some more golfers on there as well. So make sure you come back for that. Make sure you are subscribed. But hopefully we gave you guys all the information you need in this episode to build everything you need for the Masters, for DFS, for betting, and for one and done. Oh, I forgot to mention one and done. Yeah, if you're playing one and done this week, it's a major. It's a big time purse. You're going to want to play somebody good, right? My advice, I think you can still probably want to play somebody who is live, because you only get to use them 4 times a year. And so I think that that's probably the optimal play, but I think everybody in one and done knows that that's the optimal play. So all those guys are going to be popular. So you got to kind of do what you feel is right? Like you got to pick somebody good, because winning this event can get you right back in it if you're out of the hunt and you're one and done already, because it is a signature event, because it has a massive purse, and because everybody, the best players in the field, are all here. All right. That's, like I said, that's going to do it for this episode, y'all. Hopefully gave you guys all the tips you need in order to find some winners this week. If this video helped you in any way, please hit the like button on YouTube. Please rate and review the audio. Remember, if you want more from me, follow me on Twitter, join the Fantasy Corner Discord, check out the Patreon for the core plays and the model. But that's going to do it here for this episode, y'all. Like I said, I love Masters Week. I'm looking forward to a great golf tournament this week. Can't wait. Hope you guys feel the same way. So best of luck to you guys this week here at the Masters. Thank you for watching and listening to this point, and I will see you guys next time.